In today's video, we are going to explore how to find both the circumference and the area of a circle, but before we do that, it is important to recap some key terms, namely circumference, diameter, and radius. The circumference of a circle refers to the curved line that forms the outside boundary or edge of the circle. Meanwhile, the diameter is a straight line that passes from one side of the circle directly to the opposite side, and importantly, this line always passes through the very center of the circle. On the other hand, the radius is a straight line that extends from the center of the circle out to the circumference. So essentially, the radius is just half the length of the diameter. In mathematical notation, the circumference is often represented by an uppercase letter C, the diameter by an uppercase letter D, and the radius by a lowercase letter R. Now, when it comes to calculating either the area or the circumference of a circle, all you need to do is apply the appropriate formulas for the area. The formula is represented as uppercase A equals pi multiplied by r squared. In other words, the area is equal to pi times the radius squared. And for the circumference, we have two equivalent formulas. Either circumference equals 2 times pi times r, which means circumference equals 2 multiplied by pi and by the radius, or alternatively, circumference equals pi times d, meaning circumference equals pi multiplied by the diameter. It is important to recognize that these two equations for circumference essentially mean the same thing because 2 times the radius is exactly the diameter. Therefore, if you have the radius value, you can use the first formula, and if you have the diameter, you can use the second formula. To better understand how these equations work, let us consider a specific example. We take a circle with a radius of 4 centimeters and calculate its area and circumference. Using the formulas for the area, we substitute the radius value into the formula, so area equals pi times 4 squared, which is pi times 16. Now, if you are not familiar with pi, it is not a complicated concept. Rather, it is a special number approximately equal to 3.142, and it is classified as an irrational number, meaning its decimal representation goes on infinitely without repeating. If you have a calculator, you can simply press the pi button and multiply by 16. Otherwise, you would need to calculate 3.142 multiplied by 16 manually, which can be quite tricky, so most people use a calculator. In either case, the result should be approximately 50.3 square centimeters, rounding to 3 significant figures. And remember, since this is an area, the units are square centimeters. Moving on to find the circumference. Since we know the radius, we use the formula circumference equals 2 times pi times r, so we substitute the values to get circumference equals 2 times pi times 4, and by calculating this, we get approximately 25.1 centimeters. To demonstrate that the other formula works just as well, if we want to use the formula circumference equals pi times d, we first calculate the diameter, which is 2 times the radius. In this case, 2 times 4 equals 8 centimeters, so the circumference equation becomes circumference equals pi times 8, and again the result is 25.1 centimeters. Now, let's try another example, where we are given the diameter instead of the radius. Suppose the diameter of a circle is 10 centimeters. To find the area, which requires the radius, we divide the diameter by 2, so the radius equals 10 divided by 2, which is 5 centimeters. Since the radius is half the diameter, now we substitute this radius value into the area formula, so area equals pi times 5 squared, which is pi times 25, and by calculation this results in approximately 78.5 square centimeters. Lastly, for the circumference, we can use either formula because we now know both the radius and the diameter. However, to keep it simple, let us use the formula involving the diameter. So circumference equals pi times 10, which equals approximately 31.4 centimeters. And that concludes everything for this video. I hope you found this explanation clear and helpful. Please do remember to like this video and subscribe for more content.